Hello, welcome back to the X-Files Revisited. We are now on to episode 20 of season 1, which is Darkness Falls. Now, Brian, is this one of the most famous episodes of the series? Is this another one that's fell into obscurity?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, as I said last week, I do believe this is it received the highest viewing figures of season 1. They do this thing in America called, I think, is it called the Nielsen rating or something like that? But basically, yeah, it records the viewing figures, and this was the highest rated one. Presumably because by this point the show was, picking up some steam. People wanted to know what all the fuss was about, and this just happened to be the one that aired that week, which is a shame, really. But yeah, We'll get to that. It's also it did win a few awards, but they were mostly from environmentalist groups who awarded. They did like a television award from some environmental group, and obviously this covering environmental issues, it won. Yeah, but.
Okay, let's get started on this one then. So we open up to a large Vancouver-like forest where loggers are arguing about something that seems threatening, that tends to come out at night by what they're saying, and then they decide to make a run for it. And as the sun sets, the men are still trying to get away from something. There is a strange noise as green bugs envelop the guys. So straight away I'm thinking, like monster movie, colour bugs. These grown men are terrified of something. These are like manly men as well, not me, not gentrified with the city kind of living. These guys look as if they can handle themselves a little bit, and they're terrified of something. And then they're stuck in this vast area where there's pretty much no escape. So as the movie, I keep saying the movie, but they're like mini movies. As the episode starts, I'm kind of like, I'm into this one. I'm curious where this is going to go. Brian, take it away.
And then we see Killer Greenfly. Just again, like with the last episode, this intro sets up no mystery for me. The mystery is gone because we see right at the start what it is. I think the better way to have gone would have been to not show these flies, not show these green fly.
Just a green light?
Yeah, just a green light or just a noise, maybe the sound of something approaching, and then screams deep in the woods. But because you show it us, there's no tension there anymore. Like for what's doing it, it's just it's Killer Greenfly. And yeah, I mean the special effects haven't dated particularly well, it must be said. We've got this, and Chris Carter on the special features. He talks about 12 of his favourite episodes from season 1 on the DVDs, and bizarrely this makes the cut. But yeah, he says that the special effects are really good. Now that interview was recorded way back when in the 90s, so maybe back then they did look good, but now not so much, especially on Blu-ray.
So we get the theme music, we get the episode starting, and Mulder is showing Scully a picture of the loggers. And then he cracks a joke about maybe her finding a boyfriend in amongst it. Before he kind of moves on to how they've vanished and how eco-warriors were causing havoc. People keep vanishing within that forest.
Again, Scully, though, it's like Mulder, the way they're talking, though, Mulder is setting it up like a mystery. Like, here's the thing, right? You go back to one of our favourite episodes of this season, Ice, right? And in many ways, this has a similar kind of setup to Ice, in that you get this core group, the small group of people, Mulder and Scully included, who go to this remote location and they're stranded there with this killer parasite or life form that is going to kill them. Ice did it expertly. It was absolutely outstanding. And if you remember the opening scene from that episode, it was the two guys who kind of face each other at gunpoint, and then they put the guns to their own heads. And never once in that scene do we see the worm. We don't know what has caused those men to do that. There is mystery there. There is tension right from the bat. And then the next scene after that, after the opening credits, is the same as this one here. So we get Mulder and Scully talking about what's happened, you know. They're talking about the mystery. They're building that mystery. And we're seeing that they're going to go into that mystery. So that builds tension, because like, what are they walking into? Here, they're kind of doing the same thing, but there's no tension there. There's no mystery, because we've seen what it was in the opening scene that has attacked these men. We know what they're walking into. There's no mystery. So, yeah, this scene doesn't work for me, other than the humorous element of having Mulder crack that joke.
Yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from. But, I mean, I'm still... Like, I thought it was coloured bugs. I wasn't sure, because you don't really... All you see is green flecks. So I wasn't sure if it was alluding to something else when I was watching this episode. So I didn't know what was to come or what was happening. So I was kind of curious at this level anyway. And
okay.
Scully asks why he wanted the case. And boom, in 1934, he just happens to know that loggers have vanished in that area. And Scully asks if it was Bigfoot. It's shown that she's got like a humorous side as well. She can crack the jokes too.
See, this is what I was talking about in the last episode as well. If Scully can come out with something like that, how did she not make a wisecrack at the beginning of the last episode where, oh, you think it's a werewolf, Mulder? You know, not being serious, just making a joke about it, but she didn't. Right. But anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to let it go.
Get over it.
Nobody mentioned werewolf.
Get over it.
You're going to end up howling at the moon. So Mulder and Scully head out to where the loggers were, and they meet a federal forest guy, I think it was. Everyone thinks it's the eco-terrorists, the monkey wrenchers, who are causing all this carry-on, and they are joined by, I think it's Steve, some security guy for the logging company.
He's head of security for the logging company, and he basically just he berates these eco-terrorists and like essentially makes them out to be complete assholes. And at this point, based on what he says, you can kind of understand where he's coming from. You know, it's like it's not so much their car. I mean, and the park ranger dude, the federal guy, he says as much as well, which is that, look, I agree with their cause, I just don't agree with their methods, and that's the key, really. So it's like, and there's a moment when the security guy he says to Mulder that if this happened in Washington DC, if people were putting tire spikes down in Washington DC, there'd soon be something made of it. But because it's out here, no one gives a toss. And so because of that comment, you can kind of see where he's coming from.
Yeah, completely. But, I mean, even though you can kind of see his point of view, you're still kind of terrified for these two guys as soon as they join up with Mulder and Scully, aren't you? Like, they're not making it through this episode. There's not a chance.
They may as well be wearing Star Trek red shirts.
Absolutely. So they're in the car, and again, they're just all bad-mouthing the tree huggers, as they call them. And while they're just doing this, the tyre blows by something that's been laid down by the eco-terrorists.
Yeah.
And now they're going to have to hike all the way up to the camp. So they arrive at the camp, and there's nobody there. They kind of check everything out, and it seems to be that everybody left in a hurry. There's food lying out, half-eaten. There's the cars are all there. There doesn't seem to be a person anywhere at all.
The vehicles have been sabotaged, though. They see
Sabotage,
that. Yeah.
yes. Sugar in the tanks and rice in the radiators.
Yeah.
Um,
No bananas in the exhaust pipe, so.
no. That's just for Axel Foley.
Yeah. Although Mulder does find some pot.
Yes.
He comes in and he's like, I got a little bit of wacky-backy going on, so.
Yeah, I get the very, very strange feeling that this is very much a schlocky horror movie. They've taken a group of people and they're stranding them in a cabin in the woods.
Yeah, it's like cabin fever, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, it could be any of these type of things. You could even say it's like Friday the 13th with the bugs being Jason, for instance. You know, they're stuck in a cabin in the woods. Something's after them. It's any kind of 80s horror movie whatsoever.
Yeah.
And, you know, it kind of doesn't really try to hide what it is. Our intrepid heroes are looking around the logging area and they find a fairly large cocoon, which is a really nice kind of practical effect. I kind of like this one.
Yeah.
And then, since Scully's the smallest, she gets the short straw.
I wrote that down. I was like, Scully's face when she realises. I wrote Scully's face when she realises there's a person inside, and I also love how the men send Scully up to do the dirty work.
Yeah.
So there could be anything in that cocoon, and it's like, hey, you're the smallest, you're a woman, why don't you go up there?
But I mean, it does seem funny as well, but it is kind of practical because it's just going to be the easiest to hoist up by two men. I can't really imagine her, like, other than Mulder, because he's probably a bit lighter than Scully, to be fair. But she gets up, like you said, she gets up to the cocoon and she spots fingers sticking out of it.
Yeah.
And then they bring it down. Obviously, we don't see that scene because that it would be too complicated to try and show how they get it down. I have no idea how they get it down, but they do. And they're kind of cutting it open and they find the sort of mummified remains of what they suspect is one of the loggers. And there's a good joke here where Scully says, I think it's a male, and Mulder looks down and goes, barely. Which Mulder out with the jokes again. So what did you think of this scene, Brian?
It's certainly a good practical effect. It's quite creepy. It's quite disgusting, icky. When you get a little bit too close to the body, though, you can tell it's a practical effect. But it doesn't bother me too much. I think that's just 90s kind of TV work. But for 90s TV work, it's above and beyond the Call of Duty. I think it's really cracking stuff. I do have to ask, though, and I know they do call it out later that they are capable of doing this, but at this point I'm kind of thinking, how the hell do those flies lift a man up into a tree and then cocoon him? It's a stretch for me, but hey ho.
I don't seem to have a problem with it. I just think it's like there's millions of these little suckers, and working as a team, they can lift that guy. You see ants, you see the kind of thing weights ants can lift in proportionate to their body, and the ants working together, the kind of things that they can achieve. It's not too far to the imagination to imagine what millions of these things can achieve as well.
Yeah. Not quite sure I'm buying it, but moving on.
So we cut back to the engineer Steve, who's trying to get the generator working when he hears a noise in the cabin, and he finds one of the eco warriors, Doug, who is just kind of mumbling about saying darkness is our enemy, and he tells him all about the sort of bugs that are killing everything and anything.
Yeah. Steve just wants to shoot him on sight, basically.
Pretty much. Yeah. There's no love lost here.
No.
And I like this actor as well who plays Doug.
Yeah, I've seen him in something. I have no clue where, but I'm positive I've seen him in something.
Anyway, back to the point at hand. So Doug tells him about the camp that he's got with his friends, and one of them was devoured alive. He says the loggers have been taking down trees that are marked not to be taken down as such. They're sitting at the table, and Doug just throws out that Steve's company have been cutting down trees that they shouldn't be cutting down, trees that are marked to be kept, and Steve kind of like, you get a feeling he's kind of lying about not knowing anything about it, and then he starts off this, and it's almost like a spoiled kid when he's just like, I'm going outside, and he kind of storms up to storm away, and Doug's like, you don't want to do that, you don't want to go out there, and that's when Doug does the, I like to call it the I know what you did last summer moment, where he stands out in the middle of the open, starts spinning round, just like, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Just take me.
I watched that fairly recently, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
So, I mean, does that, and obviously nothing happens to him, but the camera does this nice movement where it sort of pans to the right just behind a tree, and you see the sort of green glowing bugs crawling up and down the bark.
They look all right actually on that bit. When you see them on the tree and they're all crawling around, it's a bit kind of skin crawly. But yeah, they look all right in that. It's just when they're flying, I think they don't look too great.
So Steve, who was storming away in a huff, decides to come back in after he's made this little stance, and Scully just asks Mulder, so what do you think, Mulder? And he's just like, well, what do I think? I think I'm going to sleep with the lights on. Just another, it's a very jokey Mulder episode.
Yeah.
Seems to be cracking them out.
I think like whenever Mulder is in a tight situation, whenever he's in kind of like an enclosed space, because he did the same in Ice as well. So if you can find him, get him with his back up against the wall, he kind of has this defense mechanism where he just starts throwing out the puns. So yeah.
And I quite like it when he does it as well. They're usually pretty funny.
Yeah. So that's when they come across the marked trees.
Yes, they go down and they find this marked tree, this giant tree that they've cut open, that shouldn't have been. And they're sort of looking at the rings in the tree, and they discover this strange green ring, which apparently would have been there like 600-700 years ago. Yeah.
I like how Steve gets really testy and tries to pin it on Doug. It's like, these eco-terrorists could be cutting down these trees and trying to blame it on us. They could be marking them themselves. It's like, whatever.
And then Steve again goes in another hissy fit and decides that he's going back to the car. I'm not taking this. And straight away I'm like, Steve's doomed. There's no way Steve's getting any further. He's the first to go.
Yeah.
He's marked.
He ain't coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. So the sheriff, or the ranger, whatever it is, takes a core sample of this green ring. And then pretty much we have Steve at the police car trying to get it. Is that correct? Yeah.
So they take some core samples and they go back to the cabin and they have a look at them and they see bugs living in the wood.
So we cut back to Steve, who's now at the sheriff car, and he's trying to get the thing started and running, when all of a sudden he hears a noise and sees the green bugs starting to swarm. He jumps in the car, he finally gets it moving, somehow manages to drive a few feet, just enough to block his car door and trap him in it as the bugs come in through the air vents and attack him.
Yeah. He drives like an ass, basically.
Yeah, he pretty much does. Yeah, he could have got away. Or why didn't he put on the lights inside the car or something?
Yeah.
Come on. So we're in the cabin again. We've got Scully and
Molly.
So we're in the cabin and we have Scully and Mulder, and they're chit-chatting, and Mulder starts to theorise that the bugs happened because of a volcanic eruption and the radiation caused by such. And you're like, you've got a case of the Scullies going on here, Mulder. You're really reaching for some sort of reasoning as to why this has happened. And he says, well, no, okay. He starts to rein it back in as people are talking to him. It's like, okay, maybe not radiation, but it's definitely some extinct insect eggs that were blown out by this volcano.
Yeah, I just wrote for this scene that Mulder, I'm doing it now, what on earth?
I like it.
So what I wrote about this scene basically was that Mulder, Scully and the federal dude and Doug talk theories about where the bugs came from, but he doesn't really tell us much besides the irony of tree cutters unleashing the thing that killed them. It's a very heavy-handed eco message. It just feels like they're trying to hammer home this whole eco thing, you know, like we're destroying the planet, and sooner or later it will turn on us and destroy us, and it's just like grown, whatever. But yeah, everybody's just reaching, just like it's not so much that they're reaching; it's just that you can't really buy that they would have all this stuff in their head. Even Mulder, it's like you'd feel like maybe he's at least got to go and consult some of his files before he starts pulling this stuff out of his ass. But yeah, it's just very convenient that they have all this information to put together these theories, and it's just whatever. Eco. We get it.
So then can you cut to the next day and Doug is
Oh no, just before you move on to that, I don't know if you noticed this. This happens twice in this episode. I'm not even kidding. Transition shots, right? It's basically where you just have a shot of the woods to transition between one scene and the next. It happens here, and there's another one later on in which there's a UFO in them. I'm not even kidding. It's like, seriously, go back, watch this episode.
I've never noticed it.
There's a transition of a sunset, and you can see this thing moving across the sky. I mean, it's clearly a plane, but it's like it's just because it's in the distance, it looks really weird, and it's just like this UFO is passing over the sunset. And then it happens again later. There's just these shot of these trees, and across the sky, it's really fast, kind of. It's like a UFO just shoots across the middle of the screen, and I'm like, have they literally just put them in there just to add to the, you know, the X-File UFO craziness? But yeah, really bizarre choice of transition shots.
I'll need to go back and check that out. I never noticed it at all.
I don't know if it's just because I was watching it on Blu-ray, and Blu-ray's picking up stuff that maybe you don't see on the DVD. So it'd be interesting to find out if you do actually notice that. But yeah, definitely on the Blu-ray, you see it a mile off.
So you get Doug sneaking out of the cabin the next day. Mulder pulls a gun on him, and he kind of says that he needs to go and get his friends. They only had enough gas to last the generator for 18 hours or something, and that he promises that he'll come back and pick up Mulder and the rest of them before the morning.
Can I
and then you don't get a conclusion to that scene.
No. I mean,
the jumps on to the next.
Yeah, well, the conclusion basically is when Mulder tells them that he let him go. But
it seems like a bit of time's passed between that and the next scene, and that's the first time somebody's noticed that Doug's not there.
It's just like, how dumb is Mulder though? I mean, I don't know what the technicalities of all this are. I don't know if I've got them messed up in my head, but I feel like Mulder's really dumb here. I mean, that like they call it out. Mulder accepts that he makes a mistake. He is dumb. But it's like, surely it would have been better for all of them to drive out to Doug's friends and leave together, rather than Doug driving there, then back again to pick them up. Like, he just gives Doug the gas and the car. It's just because Doug says that his friends have a car there, but they need the battery. Okay, so I'll get in the car, drive down there, get the other car started with the battery, and then drive away in two cars. Surely.
He's taking the battery from a car and he's going to trek there. That's what he's saying. He came to get a battery out of the truck. That's what he's doing.
Okay. Got it.
He's taking the battery out of the truck and then he's going to trek over there and drive his car back.
Right. I thought he was taking a battery out of one of them and then driving it over. Yeah. Sorry, I must have fell asleep big time during that bit. Never mind. Talking crap.
So Mulder gets the radio working and he puts out an SOS. And then they can have a little argument about Doug leaving. And then it's kind of highlighting like how dire the situation is when they have this little argument, when they realise that there's no gas and the generator's going to run out, and that darkness is not the best time to be around in this forest.
No.
So it's trying to really ramp up the tension a little bit. I take it you didn't enjoy that at all.
No, I liked.
You don't get any tension.
I liked that scene. It's bizarre to have Mulder in a situation where he clearly has done a bit of a douchebag thing, where he clearly has been a bit of an idiot. I mean, ultimately that decision will be their saving grace by the time we get to the end of the episode. But I feel like, yeah, not at least sending one person to go with him is a bit foolish. But yeah, like it's good that even Scully has a go at him. Even Scully gets a little bit annoyed with the decision he made on their behalf. But I just
Scully. I don't want to break things down to like genderish or that, but I'm going to, because Scully does that thing where she walks in a room. Mulder looks as if he's kind of, alright, he's made a mistake. He's hanging his head low a little bit, and before she even says anything, he puts his hands up and goes like, I know, I've made a mistake. What I did was wrong. And you kind of see Scully trying not to rub it in, but she needs to do that I told you so thing and just starts niggling at him anyway. Like, it's your fault, Mulder, we're all going to die because of you.
I just think, I look at a scene like this and I think how much better it was done in an episode like Ice, where you still have that tension, you still have the arguing, but none of the characters lose any of their dignity. You know, the tension and the arguments don't come out of any kind of stupidity on any of the characters' parts. It comes purely out of the situation they're in. So, yeah. But like I say, I've got nothing against this scene. I think it's good. I think it's a good scene. It's nice to see ramifications for Mulder's decision, and that Scully doesn't just give him a free pass, which you would kind of expect. That you'd expect them to, you know, if it was poorly, well, even more poorly written, someone would just write it that Scully gives him a free pass. Oh, there, Mulder, never mind. But no, I like that she calls him out on it and says, actually, you've possibly doomed us. So, yeah, it's a good scene.
And then you have, just at the end of the scene, they say they need to secure the building. And then you really need to give your props up to the sort of production manager, whoever it was, because in a later scene you really see how they've secured the building, because there is 2 planks of wood over a window with about a foot gap between them, and you're like, these are microscopic bugs. I mean, a full grown human could have crawled through the gap.
Yeah, it's just it's such a futile effort anyway, because like you say, it would have to be airtight for those things not to get in. They are completely wasting their time.
I love like the next sort of scene. You've got the generator starting to fade a little bit, the lights flickering and the tension's building, and Scully sees the bugs and really freaks out a little bit. She starts to think they're on her.
Yeah.
And then Mulder's like, the bugs are always here. It's just the light that seems to stop them from swarming.
Yeah. Makes them docile.
Kind of interesting idea. But this is the thing, like, they know that the light's fading. It's going to go. Nobody start a fire. Is that just me? Am I thinking something too silly here or that? Just surely, like, these cabin guys have got like paraffin lamps or torches or
I don't know, because obviously
they have one light bulb. They actually say that's the only light bulb we have.
Well, the gasoline that they had fuels the generator, doesn't it? So they've not got any fuel in that sense, but they've got a ton of wood around them, with them being in a forest and all. But
and the fact that they're loggers.
Yeah, I do like the acting from Gillian Anderson in that scene when she freaks out. And just moments before, one of the guys says to her, she's unscrewing the bulb, and he creeps up behind her and goes, "Careful with that bulb. This is the last one." Just to add the pressure. And then, moments later when she does her freak out, she whacks the bulb, and because as a viewer, you know how precious that bulb is. They've not got any more. There's a moment where you go, "Oh, Scully, watch it." But I think it's down to that performance that Anderson gives. As always, she's for me, she's always the best actor on the show. But she really commits to that moment and sells it. So good scene.
And they have a little scene after that, and they're just saying how the bugs are like fireflies, and they're starting to get desperate. They've only got 90 minutes left until sunrise, and then this is one scene that I think I missed something, or something definitely happened I didn't notice. The generator dies and they go into darkness, and it just seems to cut to daylight, and they're outside.
Yeah, we're supposed to just buy that the generators went out just as suns come up, so they're all right.
I see.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't get that at all.
No.
I just thought I'd missed something.
No. Yeah. It just generator dies, and luckily, it's just as the sun comes up.
It's morning time.
Yeah. There's a scene just before the generator cuts out where Scully is talking to Mulder about oxidizing enzymes, and I'm just kind of sat there thinking, I have no idea what you're talking about. So that's an interesting scene.
Okay. Right, so it's morning time, and they decide to take a wheel off of one of the trucks and take it down to the police car and kind of fix that. And that's when they get down there, they find Doug cocooned in the car, but he's still got that kind of look against the window with one hand face pressed against it, still kind of screaming.
That's where the just before they hike down to the Rangers, just in case you're interested, that's when you get the other transition shot with the UFO shooting across the sky. Just so, if you want to look.
I'm going to go back and check that out, because I'm curious about that.
But I've just got to say as well about that scene in which just before they go down, it just feels like that scene that there seems to be too much emphasis placed on telling us about these bugs and making them sound real than an actual plotting. And like Mulder telling us that he still believes in Doug is neither here nor there, and saying we'll think of something is also pointless. So there's all this stuff going on in the scene, but like when you start to think about it, it's all just a bit moot. It's all kind of, it's just a moot point. And so much of the episode, like I say, seems to be, it's like the writers got so fixated on creating this mythological bug, and they really wanted to delve into the backstory of it and the creation of it, and just so they become so fixated on that half the episode just seems to be characters talking about these bugs, but not actually really moving the plot forward all that much. And that's kind of how a lot of this episode feels to me.
Okay. So we're at the forest ranger's car when they find, obviously, Steve kind of cocooned, and then Doug appears. He's come back. Oh, what a guy. And he's like, quick, everybody get in. And he speeds away as if something's chasing after them. Yeah. And wouldn't you believe it? He's monkey wrenched his own car. Right. He did it. Oh,
the irony. The irony.
It could kill you. It's that ironic. And they kind of get attacked by these bugs when the car obviously stopped because it's got a burst tyre. And it's trying to get in. Someday, is it Doug that jumps outside the car?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is one thing I just kind of wasn't sure, because the car was still running and the headlamps were on, and it was kind of bathed in light, yet he still got attacked. And inside the car, I really like this scene inside the car when the bugs start coming in, and we've seen this happen before, and I could not see how they were getting out of this situation at all.
Yeah.
And I like that fact that it seemed very... Because usually when they get into these life or death situations, you're like, yeah, somebody's going to save them, something's going to happen, blah, 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 and you're like, no, they're stuck here. They're in the car with these bugs, they're being attacked. Which cuts to the next scene where you've got the helicopter and then the sort of... the white vans appearing and the guys in the sort of hazmat suits.
Yeah.
And not about the car, and everybody's cocooned.
Yeah.
But Scully's still kind of moving a little bit.
Yeah, it's it's a good scene. It's what can I say? I think the moment in the car when they're actually being attacked, you do feel this kind of, you do feel a moment of, oh, they're actually not getting out of this. Mm-hmm. So where are they going to go from here? So that is kind of quite surprising, but instantly that kind of feeling is stolen from you by the fact that the hazmat team all shows up. So instantly you think, oh right, they've been saved just in time. So yeah, again, the tension is taken away as soon as
they've only got a couple of minutes left, Brian.
But whatever.
So we jump to a containment facility where Mulder and Scully are being holed up. They're recuperating. They look as if they've got a fairly bad skin disease. Everyone should be fine, the doctor says, and the government has a clean-up plan in which failure is not an option.
Yeah, not an option, Mr. Mulder. It's like, yeah, I know, but what if it is? It's just like, it's not something you can guarantee. Simply saying failure is not an option isn't going to guarantee that you won't fail. I was looking down at my notes there, and I just remembered a moment when it's when Doug gets out of the car, and the bugs start to come. The guys are sat inside the car, and they see the bugs start to come towards Doug, and Mulder shouts, "Get out of there!" It's like, you mean get in here, right, Mulder? Like, as in get in the car? It's like, he's outside. How can he get out of there? It amused me anyway.
Okay, Brian, you want to wrap this one up?
Yeah, look, I know I sound like I'm being really harsh on this episode. I've probably been overly critical. I do think this is a poor man's Ice. It has a lot of the same kind of setup. It just isn't as good. But it's entertaining. You know, I like some of the characters that we have in it. The eco-terrorist guy. I like the federal agent guy. And Steve's good for a laugh, you know. And some good special effects, the cocoon stuff that's going on. I do like the idea of these bugs. I just think they shoot themselves in the foot by showing you them so soon. And then, there's just a few things in the episode that are a bit gnawing at me. But yeah, it's not a complete washout. I give it a 2.5 out of 5. I wouldn't say it's a good episode, but I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a bad episode or a poor episode. So yeah.
I seem to have a certain like for the ones that are very horror centric or remind me of horror movies that I have seen. You know, I seem to gravitate toward those episodes more than not. And this one, like you, I didn't feel it was a good episode. I felt it was a great episode. I had a lot of fun with this one.
You are kidding me.
I am not kidding you. I like the setup of the people going to the cabin in the woods. I like the fact that they're kind of trapped there, being hunted by this creature. I like the prosthetics and the practical effects that they did. I like the sort of way that they were breaking down a little bit. I'll agree with you. It's not as good as Ice. It's definitely not, but it's still a very fun episode that I had a lot of fun with. I really liked, and I liked the kind of ending as well, where you're like, God, they're not getting away from this one. Somebody had to come in and save them. And overall, I thought Darkness Falls was really good, and I gave it 4.
Oh, good grief.
Boom.
Okay.
Yeah, I really did enjoy it a lot.
Mm.
Yeah, just me and Chris Carter, you know, we're like that. Two of us thought this was a good episode.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's get you away from this one, Brian. So the next episode is a little episode called Tombs, which I believe you've mentioned several times. Does anybody know what this one's about? Is it remembered at all?
Finally, it feels like it's been a while. It feels like it's been a while since we've. What was that? I think Beyond the Sea was the last one we both gave 5 stars. I think,
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so it's been quite a while. But yeah, I think we're going to be back into 5-star territory. To be honest, I think it's a tough call between which is better out of Squeeze and Tombs. Obviously, both those episodes deal with the same character. And I think you'd be hard pressed to say which one out of the two is the best one. I think they're kind of on equal footing. It's really nice to see a villain come back. You know, it's essentially the first sequel that we get in the show. Yeah, been looking forward to this for quite some time. So
good. I'm looking forward to this one myself. Actually, I remembered Squeeze. But I do not remember Tombs for some reason.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to giving this a watch. So remember to come back next week and you'll be able to hear our thoughts on Tombs. And if you check out the comment box below, you'll notice all our links to our various social media. And remember to come along and say hello, pop onto Brian Lomax Movie Talk or Man v Film, the YouTube channels, and check out some of our other stuff. And we'll see you next time on the X-Files Revisited.
So yeah, they go back and they examine the core samples and they see man, your face. You couldn't let me finish that sentence.
No. I wanted to see how long you could last there, Ryan. Yeah, and then we can.
I'm trying to help you out here. Trying to make your life easier.
I'm just having fun.